Hello again, everybody, and welcome to Gamecock Central Radio. Talking men's basketball today. Emerson Phillips with former Gamecock basketball player Joe Rhett. Joe played at Eau Claire High School, played for the Gamecocks from 1989 to 1992, played for Coach Felton. Joe, we're thrilled to have you on Gamecock Central Radio. Good to have you today. How you doing, man?
Hey, I'm doing good, Emerson. I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah.
I'm excited. Look forward to talking it up about some basketball.
Yeah, we're still very early in the season, but we've got a couple of huge games for Gamecock men's basketball coming up this week, and we're going to talk about those two with you today. South Carolina's got Michigan at the Colonial Life Arena tomorrow at 5 p.m. That's Wednesday at 5, South Carolina and Michigan. Michigan ranks 25th in the country in the AP poll. They're 24th in the coaches poll. They're 4-0 coming in. They made the NCAA tournament a year ago. So a huge game for South Carolina. Home game at the CLA on Wednesday of this week. And then after the Thanksgiving holiday, the Gamecocks will travel to Brooklyn, New York to take on Syracuse at the Barclays Center in Brooklyn. Syracuse made the Final Four last year. So, Joe, before we talk about this year's Gamecock men's basketball team, talk about Frank Martin's effort to beef up the non-conference schedule. South Carolina won 24 games a year ago. The Gamecocks were 24-8, but did not get into the NCAA tournament. And a large part of the reason for that is that the non-conference schedule was just not very difficult. So Coach Martin taking steps to beef up the non-conference schedule with games against Michigan and Syracuse.
Yeah, certainly that was a disappointment to Frank Martin, and certainly a disappointment to the fans, certainly a disappointment to the team. You know, like you said, by them winning 24 games, a record for the University of South Carolina. You know, you look at some teams that have a lot less history. Well, not as much, South Carolina doesn't have as much history as far as being a perennial team going to the NCAA. And I think that's what hurt them. You know, like I said, we were very disappointed and thought that team should be able to make it in there. But, give Coach Martin credit. He was very proactive in beefing up the schedule. You know, a couple of games that he did schedule last year, I think, I don't recall right off. He didn't expect those teams to have that bad of a year on last year. I think that's what hurt him. But this year, definitely with Michigan coming in on tomorrow to the CLA. You can't get no better than that. You know, we had some games already with La Tech, Holy Cross, Mama, who was on the verge of doing great things last year, coached by a good friend of mine, King Rice, and of course South Carolina State, who's an in-state team that has some good guards that also challenged the Gamecocks last week. So the schedule's been pretty good so far. You know, he has so many different. These 4 games that they played so far brought different intensity, different dynamics to test this Gamecock team so far. You know, by being so young, even though I think we're a really good team in the backcourt. When you talk about Dwayne Notice, Sindarius Stonewell, and also P.J. Dozier, those guys have been in there. And these 4 games early was to somewhat test the younger guys. You know, even though P.J. and Silver has been here already, they're still young. They're still pretty young. So you got some incoming freshmen, some newcomers to the team that are not used to Frank's system right now, and those 4 games were definitely a test for this early Gamecock men's basketball team.
All right, the Gamecocks are 4-0. They beat South Carolina State by 42 points last time out, beat Monmouth in overtime the game before that. Monmouth, a good team a year ago, better than most people realize unless you're a close follower of college basketball. So the Gamecocks are 4-0, and they've got Michigan in a 5 o'clock tip Wednesday at the Colonial Life Arena. Michigan's 4-0 as well. Michigan won a first 4 game in the NCAA tournament last year, and then they were beaten by Notre Dame in round 1 of the NCAA tournament. So Michigan coming into the CLA for this Wednesday game, an early start, a 5 o'clock tip-off. And, Joe, wanted to talk with you about personnel for the Gamecocks here. Sindarius Thornwell named first-team All-SEC by the coaches, but he didn't make All-SEC team from the media. But he has led the Gamecocks in scoring all 4 games, coming off a 22-point effort against South Carolina State. And, he's the anchor of the team and of the program right now. Thornwell's been outstanding. He looks much improved in this his senior year.
Oh, no doubt. As players, as former players, or any player, it's disappointing that he wasn't. To me, I was a little disappointed he wasn't on the first team All-SEC. But hey, that's just how it starts. So if that is something that can motivate him to finish this season and carry this team to where we need to be, I'm all for it. I call Sindarius the Swiss Army knife of this Gamecock men's basketball team. He rebounds, he scores, he defends some of the best perimeter players on the team, on the opposing team. He just does so much. And we rely on Sindarius to do a lot for us because he's that stir that get that coffee and that drink going for us. And once he's going and showing the leadership that I know he has, he's been there. This is his 4th year. This is his time for him to, really shine. He's going to go down as one of in my opinion, one of the best Gamecocks in history. He's going to be in the top 20, 25, I think. So, or maybe even higher. I don't want to judge him too soon because he has a year left, but he has to do a lot for us to be successful. And just the little things. He's practice stats every night. He, like I said, he does so many different things. So many things you don't even see. He's a leader in practice. He's a guy that really helps the young guys because he's been there. He's been here when Frank first got here, and he saw, when he was a freshman, where somebody took him under his wings and showed him the ropes. And now he's transferring that to some of the young guys because he knows that this is it, and that's how Frank, Frank likes that, where he has juniors and seniors that can help run the team and makes his job a little bit easier.
Joe, is Thornwell an NBA player?
Is he? That's a good question. I believe he is. A lot of times it's about going to the right team. When he first came in, honest with you, I didn't think he was going to last a year. I thought he was almost a one and done or two, maybe 2 years, and he was gone. He had some issues early on after his sophomore year with some knee injuries and little injuries that he's been battling for a while. But he's healthy now, and if he continues this pace, I think he can be. He can be very serviceable to a lot of NBA teams. It's just about getting to the right team, and hopefully, if he continue at this pace, I think he's averaging about 20 points and about 6.5 rebounds right now, if I'm not mistaken. But those are really good numbers. Like, it's early on, but those are good numbers. And if he continue to play with the aggressiveness and being a leader out there and just being Sindarius, he can one of the few guys on the team that can score in so many multiple ways by getting to the basket, getting foul, and shooting the open three. And the jump shot this year has been looking pretty good for him.
Yeah, Thornwell's been outstanding this year, scoring the basketball, defending, rebounding, passing, doing a little bit of everything for South Carolina. Gamecock Central Radio here. Emerson Phillips with former Gamecock basketball player Joe Rhett. We invite you to download the Gamecock Central Radio app. We've got a free phone app that allows you to listen to our podcast anywhere you receive cell phone service. You can listen on your phone, and you'll find the app on the App Store and on Google Play. To subscribe to our podcast, search for Gamecock Central Radio. You'll find us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and other popular services, or visit radio.GamecockCentral.com. South Carolina and Michigan, 5 o'clock tip Wednesday at the CLA. Michigan won the first 4 game in the NCAA tournament last year, so they're a top 25 team here, Joe, and this is a real test for the Gamecocks at home. Should be a good crowd Wednesday at the CLA.
Yeah, I expect a really good crowd. People going on vacation and just having this Thanksgiving Day. It's a good opportunity to get out and see the Gamecocks before this big Clemson Carolina football matchup. So, got a top-ranked team, a 25-ranked team, Michigan coming in with Coach Beeline. He's been a great coach for the past 10 or plus years there in Michigan. He's always a contender. His teams are always very, very disciplined. And one thing that they like to do is try to make you uncomfortable on the offensive end. They play a lot of zone, 1-3-1, different matchups just to not only just turn you over, but to just speed you up and get you out of your rhythm of what you're used to. So I trust that our veteran guards can handle this Michigan coach John Beeline's defense, and they'll be able to penetrate that zone and not get too raffled. Hopefully, by playing at home, these guys will be real calm and they won't crack under pressure. And I think it should be a really, really, really good test for this team. We'll see. We'll get to know, if these young guys are ready to get into the heat of the SEC real soon by these two great Michigan and Syracuse game that's coming up.
Yeah, Syracuse coming up on Saturday. Michigan figures to be a tournament team again this year, and Syracuse currently ranked higher than Michigan. Syracuse number 16 in the coaches poll, number 18 in the AP poll. They're 3-0, 2:30 tip Saturday at the Barclays Center in Brooklyn. And Syracuse made the national semis. They made the Final Four last year, lost in the semis to North Carolina. So, Syracuse known for their 2-3 zone, and they're always so big, Joe. They get in that zone, but they're so long that they defend the three-point line, and their defense is what they're known for. So how good do you think Syracuse is this year? Clearly they're good. They're top 20, but how far do you think they'll go?
I've heard statements that Coach Boeheim was saying it's one of the best teams he had in years. Not a lot of guys that remember coming back, but, for a little bit of motivation for the South Carolina Gamecocks, a lot of people thought that Syracuse last year was one of the teams that possibly bumped them from going to the NCAA last year. So this is a little added motivation, but this team is a really, really good team. We know about the defense that they always play, a 2-3 matchup that presents not only so many people hard times on offense, they make you very, very uncomfortable. They contest every shot, and similar to what I think Frank tries to do by having a lot of athletic guys that can, stretch the floor, that can run and jump and contest shots and cover the paint and protect the rim. And I think that's similar to what Frank is trying to do here at South Carolina. And that's something Boeheim has been known for, to have those really, really 6'8", 6'9" athletic guys that can really make it uncomfortable for not only the bigs inside, but also make it uncomfortable for guys that normally, like you come to Dwayne Notice and the Sanders, sometimes you play against certain teams that get open shots. But believe it or not, on Saturday, when they go up to Brooklyn, they're going to have some highly contested shots. They won't make it easy. Of course, that's why Syracuse is who they are, because of the great coach, Jim Boeheim. But it's another game that we can, after tomorrow, we go to Syracuse, I think we can pull this one out also.
Huge games for South Carolina. Winning either of these two would be marquee victories for sure, and something that the Gamecocks could hang their hat on later in the year if they are in the running for an NCAA tournament berth. So we're going to find out a lot more about the Gamecock men's basketball team with Michigan and Syracuse coming up this week. Joe, Thornwell, obviously the leader of the Gamecock basketball team here in 2016-2017, but Dwayne Notice, another key player back this year, and P.J. Dozier back for his sophomore year. Dozier hit the game winner in overtime against Monmouth last week. So these three, really the driving force of Gamecock basketball. But I wanted to talk with you about the front court. Carrera's gone. Chetkevichus is gone. Kaichenis is gone. Who are the Gamecocks going to look to produce in the front court this year?
Well, you got Chris Silver, who's coming back. Who I think he's averaging about 10 points, about 6.8 rebounds. And you got the other kid, Kotsar, who's into the starting lineup, a freshman. And that's a rare thing where you get a big, I think he's about 6'9", 6'10" guy that has been covering the paint. Also, you don't replace those guys, Emerson. You don't replace those guys that we lost, the two Lithuanians and Mike Carrera. They were guys that have been in the program for 4 years that you, as fans, and we saw these kids grow up before our eyes in 4 years. And just to see the year that Mike Carrera had last year was just awesome to see somebody do that. So do we replace them? No. Not what they did, because they were just, I've been to several practices showing how those guys were such leaders in practice and how they were helping some of the young guys. And now, we don't have a lot of older people in the front court to help. So hopefully Chris Silver has learned a lot, and I know Frank will work with these guys. One of the problems that I think they do have right now early on is rebounding and protecting the rim. Chris Silver is a guy that's very energetic. He really don't run a whole lot of plays for him, but this guy knows how to attack the basket, and he plays with such energy that you can't manufacture that, and you have to let a guy like that. But he does need to tone it down a little bit, because sometimes he'll get caught and reaching and jumping over someone's back. That gets him in foul trouble sometimes. But I think with a little bit of experience, he'll learn to tone that down and be one of those leaders that we need out there. We got some freshmen out there. We got a 7-foot kid. I call him KG. He's been getting a little bit of time. Hopefully he can get stronger. He can learn the game. And within the Frank Martin system, you saw how well the Lithuanians, how that game has progressed. There were guys that were able to get the ball inside and finish around the paint. Sometimes they didn't finish, but under Frank Martin, he lets his guards go, but he also demands that ball get inside. So, we can put the pressure on some of those on the opposing teams, which will ultimately help our perimeter game. So Frank plays that old school, the inside-out game, which I love. That's the old school, inside-out. And if these guys develop, Carolina can go a long way.
Chris Silva had a good freshman year last year. He'll be a key big man for the Gamecocks this year. And Joe mentioned Mike Kotsar, who is from Estonia by way of Wichita, Kansas, 6'10" freshman, getting a lot of minutes in the early season here for the Gamecock men's team. And, role player that has shown the ability to help this ball club in the early portion of the season. So, Joe, a couple of other players that we want to talk about before we wrap it up today. An expanded role, more playing time this year for Justin Mackey, the Gamecock senior.
Man, I'm glad you brought it up. Justin is a guy that's been waiting this time. You see a lot of kids that come in. Justin came with a lot of pressure, trying to follow his dad, who was an all-time great at University of South Carolina. He came under a lot of pressure, people expecting him to be who his dad was, and that's not going to happen in most cases. But Justin hung in there. A lot of people will come in and want to transfer, and I give that kid a lot of credit. He worked every summer. I've seen him in the program down there at Heathwood Hall every summer, and kids work on his game. He's developed a shot, and to be honest with you, outside of all the guys that we talked about earlier, Justin is very key to our success. He really is. If he can come in and get us, 9 to 10 points a night, coming off the bench, bring a lot of energy. He's always been a good defensive player for us. If he can continue to do that and, bring us, like I said, about 10 points, some good tough defense and spell those guys, Justin could have a very good senior year. If we can get some extra out of him, I think we would do well.
Joe, another young player that the Gamecocks are excited about and who's done some good things early in the season here is Rakeem Felder. This kid is originally from South Carolina. He's a freshman with the Gamecocks. He had 10 points in one of the games early this year, and this is a kid that shows a lot of promise.
Well, he is. He's a guy that, Frank likes those big guards that can get in the mix. We're going to have to take the pressure off a lot of our guys that we got. We lost Marcus Stroman last year, who was the point guard that came in and did a lot of things for us, who ran the offense for us. Hopefully, Felder could be that guy. You got PJ that plays a lot of points, and that'll help take a lot of pressure off Sindarius. We prefer Sindarius to play off the ball so he can do some things, bringing that ball up the court against some pressure that some of these teams that they're about to play can be very hectic for us. So if we can get Felder in there and get him some experience and get him some confidence, he can be a very key for us as far as helping take some of the pressure off the guards that we have starting when we're talking about PJ, Notice, and Sindarius.
All right, the Gamecocks got some familiar faces back with Thornwell and Notice and Dozier and Mackey, and some new faces as well that we're going to be talking a lot more about here on Gamecock Central Radio as the season moves on. Wanted to give you a season preview here with Joe Rhett, a former Gamecock basketball player. Joe, great to have you on Gamecock Central Radio, and we look forward to talking more with you very soon.
I appreciate it, and thanks for having me, and go Gamecocks, and let's get this season keep rolling, and we'll talk to you later.
All right, big week for Gamecock basketball. That's Joe Rhett, and I'm Emerson Phillips. We'll have more Gamecock basketball talk here on Gamecock Central Radio. Have a great Thanksgiving. Thanks for tuning in.